Okay guys, now this one is just the concealer. Now my concealer routine is a little bit more extensive than most because I do have really dark circles and I have hollows under my eyes. You guys know that I did get fillers at one point, but it's something that I really need to actually get, like that surgery, if I really want it corrected, because you can't just keep filling it up and filling it up. So I do a little bit more of a corrector, a brightener, and a concealer. Some people luckily only have to do a concealer and that's it. But this is just my concealer routine. So if you want to see how I do my concealer, please keep watching. Okay, now I'm moving on to concealer, which is going to be a little bit different because I have the shadow underneath my eye. I can't go as close to my lash line as I normally would. I normally really get under my lash line and then go underneath it, but obviously I can't, so we're gonna just pretend like it's not there. Okay, and I'll just have to kind of buff over it after, later on. Okay, so my concealer routine is a little different than some people's because I have a lot of darkness. If you look down, I've got hollows in here. So I do a little bit more correcting than the normal person who would probably just have a little bit, maybe a little darkness and just kind of smooth over with the concealer. So my routine is definitely a little more extensive, but I'm just gonna go ahead and do the whole thing. So what I like to do first is correct the darkness with a little peach corrector. And this is from LA Girl. It's the Pro Conceal, and the color I use is Peach Corrector. So it comes in the little squeeze tube, so just squeeze a little bit out. And I'm just gonna do a little dot right here, just right where it's dark. And believe me, a little goes a long way on this. So what I'm gonna do is take this little rounded concealer brush, and this is Concealer Buffer 142 from Zoeva. And I'm gonna go ahead and look down, and I'm gonna buff right where it's dark. I'm doing it really lightly, so it's literally just buffing it onto the skin. The orangish kind of peach cancels out blue. So when I look up, it's more corrected. Same thing for the other side. Oh, I have way too much on that. I'm just gonna tap a little bit off of my towel. Okay, I'm just gonna do the same thing. Again, it's a very light buffing motion that I'm using. I'm just literally like sweeping really softly over the skin, and it's just kind of lightly buffing it in. This one had so much on there that it's okay. Just tap it in with the warmth of your finger. Will kind of tap that in. Okay, so the next thing I'm going to do is brighten under that area. So I'm going to take my Becca under eye brightening corrector. I'm actually really low on this one, and I'm going to take my Real Techniques, and this is that little pointed foundation brush. I don't know how this is a foundation brush, but it is. I've always used it for concealer, so I'm going to use this for my corrector. And again, I look down because what I'm trying to do is defeat this little hollow right here. So I'm literally going to go right here and just kind of go right in that little hollow. And for this one, I'm going to take my damp beauty blender and just kind of buff it in. And see, this is why I normally would do my shadow last. Like I have that inner corner highlights kind of mixing together with that. That's okay. Let's just pretend like that's not there. To be a little bit more careful when you have shadow already there. That's why it's kind of weird that I did it like this. But because I'm doing one makeup with different areas, I'm having to separate it. And so I never would have done the under eye area before my concealer. Okay, so there's that. So here's going to be a tricky spot. I normally do my actual concealer after my foundation. The reason being is because I like to bring my concealer up onto the side of my nose and like down the center of my nose. So because I'm doing a concealer routine by itself right now, I'm just gonna put a little foundation on my nose, okay? So it's gonna look a little strange that I'm doing that, but I just kind of have to do that because then I'm gonna go over when I do my foundation. It's gonna cover up everything I just did with my concealer. So you'll see what I mean as I'm doing it. So I'm gonna go ahead and put my primer on first because I always put my primer underneath my foundation, obviously. So I'm actually using the Becca, it looks like a little lavender color, but this is the Becca First Light Priming Filter. It doesn't come out purple, but it just like I'm just gonna put it on my face right here. And this doesn't matter because you can actually put your primer on at any time. I just always like to do it right before my foundation, so it's kind of tacky, and it kind of helps with adhering your foundation a little bit longer. So I'm gonna put this one on here. Like I said, I'm not doing my actual foundation right now. I just want to do my concealer, so I'm going to put foundation over my nose area. Okay, so I'm using today the NARS Santa Fe Medium 2, and then this is the All Day Luminous Foundation. And I'm just going to squirt a little bit onto my tray. And I'm going to pick it up with my little buffing brush from Real Techniques, and I'm gonna go ahead and just pounce that right on my nose area. Also, it helps with when you are gonna put concealer on, your concealer doesn't have to work as hard because you're covering up a little bit. I don't go all the way up into here, but I go right to where I did that, where that little hollow is. I just kind of go right there, because then it kind of makes where my concealer is not gonna have to work as hard. So hopefully that makes sense. And I will just go ahead and go right up in my brows, really, just to make it even. Okay, so we're just gonna pretend that I haven't done that. I still don't have anything on my forehead. I have no foundation on my forehead. So for concealer, I'm gonna use the Tarte Shape Tape in Light. And I'm going to draw a few little lines down my nose, my forehead. That's why I put a little bit down my forehead, and just keep it at that. The rest of it I'll do after I put my foundation on. So I'm going to go ahead and go with that same little concealer pointed brush, where it's actually a tapered foundation brush, and I'm going to go ahead and just kind of drag it down and bring it up onto the side of my nose. And now you can see why I wanted a little bit of foundation there, because if I would have done this before that, I would have like a naked nose with concealer on it. So that's why I had to put my foundation on. So that's why I'm doing that. And I just basically kind of bring this up as close to the lash line as possible. I have concealer, I have shadow there, so I can't get as close, but what I'll do is take that little buffing brush that we used, and I can actually buff around right there really softly. And then I'm just going to go back with the shadow after I have powder on, so I'll do that after I do my foundation. Let's go back to the eyes. And then I'm going to take my little beauty sponge again and just kind of pat that on, get everything kind of blended in. Okay, so that's the concealer part of it. Like I said, if you don't have all the problems that I have underneath the eyes, you could just do the Tarte Shape Tape by itself. You don't have to do the brightener, you don't have to do the corrector. Just go with the concealer, or any concealer. But unfortunately, I have a lot going under my eyes, so I have to brighten as much as possible. So that's my concealer routine. Again, that would be after my foundation. So I will go back. When I do my foundation, I'll go back with just a little touch of concealer just to make sure it's bright under there. So I know this is probably all over the place, but hopefully it makes sense. So I'll see you back for foundation and contour.